Hello and welcome to the Student MPP Q&A session. Thank you so much for registering for this session. We hope it's going to be super helpful for you as you continue your considerations into applying for the MPP. We have around an hour for this session. I will be putting questions to my colleagues who have very kindly agreed to give up their time to talk about the MPP and how they're settling in here at the Blavatnik School of Government. So please do put more questions in the chat. Thank you to those of you who submitted questions beforehand. That was really helpful of you. This session is being recorded, so if you miss any of it or you want to look at it again, it's going to be on our YouTube page alongside all the other MPP admissions Q&As that we have done in the past. So I'm going to kick off. I should introduce myself first of all. I'm Helen. I run the Comms and Events department here at the school. And as you can see, we are in Lecture 31, which is where you might be this time, September next year. So I'm going to ask my colleagues, starting with Eric, if you can all introduce yourselves and perhaps talk a little bit about what you did before you came to the school.
Of course. So my name is Eric Ehige. I come from the Republic of Ireland. Before coming to the school, immediately before coming to the school, I worked briefly in a law firm. And then before that, I worked as a tutor or a seminar leader, depending on the language you use, at my former university within Ireland, which is where I was raised. And then before working in that context, I was a law student. So I graduated from law before working as a tutorial kind of leader, and then in a law firm, and then coming to BSG. To study for the MPP.
And what made you decide to come to BSG, or certainly to continue your studies in public policy?
Yeah, well, the course here at BSG is very focused on social impact. And as a law student, there were elements of my course that allowed me to look at how the law could be used as an instrument to leave a positive impact in society. So on the one hand, you could say legally speaking, from my training as a law student, I wanted to explore routes that I could take in the future professionally to combine the legal training that I have received and eventually will receive with a focus on impacting Irish society for the better. And then besides that, a political issue that I'm very interested in at the moment is how Ireland, so the country I was raised in and come from, can reckon with its diversity and ensure social cohesion in the face of the unprecedented cultural heterogeneity that it's facing at the moment. So in Ireland and in many European countries right now, there's a lot of issues with anti-immigrant sentiment. So I thought BSG could adequately train me and give me the language that I could use to address some of these political challenges. And so far, so good.
That's great. That's really good to hear. And that's a really interesting motivation. We have a lot of people who come here. They want to go back to countries where they were raised to do good in the societies and communities in which they were raised. So that's a wonderful motivation. Yetunde.
Hi, thank you. My name is Yetunde, and I'm from Nigeria. My background is in law. Before I came to Oxford, I had worked with the Nigerian government precisely within the anti-corruption landscape. I'd served in several roles, but the most prominent would be in prosecution of high-profile corruption cases and asset recovery. So essentially, that's what I was doing right before I came to Oxford.
And what made you decide to come here?
Interesting question. Actually, I'm trying to transition from prosecution to public policy, and I like to explain it using this analogy. So imagine you walked into a bathroom filled with water because the tap was left on. What prosecution tries to do is mop up the water, which is deal with the immediate aftermath. But what public policy does is turn off the tap. Yeah, so that's exactly why I decided to come.
That's a wonderful analogy. Yeah. Stopping the water before it floods out. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ciao.
Thank you. My name is João Marcos. I'm from Brazil, and my background is in economics, actually. So before coming to Oxford, I was working in my city, which is a small city in the countryside of Brazil. The name is Jaguaré. And I was pretty much working I was the Secretary of Finance for the 2 first years of my experience in my city, and then I was promoted for superintendent. And the major issues I was working with was trying to bring efficiency in the application of public resources and public policies in my city. So to give a more exact example of the kind of issues that I was facing was like what kind of administrative solutions that we have for the hospitals, and how we could improve education, and how we could improve effective use of resources, public resources in education, and especially how we could increase government's revenues, so to have more resources available for public policies. So it's basically what I was working with.
So your motivation coming here is about increasing that knowledge to take back with you.
Yeah, definitely. A part of my motivation to come to Oxford is, or to BSG specifically, is an instrumental approach of how this knowledge can help me to improve these abilities. But there are other issues too. I was researching on the faculty, and I mean, I related to many of the professors and their experiences working to governments before teaching in BSG. So I was really looking for an institution that had people with previous experiences in working with public policy, and this is definitely what we have here in BSG.
Brooke, finally.
Hi, I'm Brooke Boney. I'm Australian. I'm a Gamilaroi woman. My background is in journalism. So before I came to Oxford, I was working on a show called The Today Show, which is breakfast TV. So I was a newsreader and I did entertainment as well. But I've also done a lot of work in Indigenous policy and advocacy. So I, had been doing all of this work in this space for so long and realized that it wasn't necessarily the policy design or implementation that was the issue when it comes to Indigenous affairs. It was more how it was communicated to the public. And so there was a real sort of gap in that part of the process and in my knowledge as well. So I wanted to come over to Oxford and see if I could, figure out how to close that gap. And I knew that I wanted to study, but it was Oxford specifically that I wanted to come to. So I think I made the right choice. Being here with these
Good to know. That's great. So you can see really what a massively diverse cohort we have at the school. We attract people from all over the world, all different backgrounds, and it's I think it's probably one of the most diverse cohorts, or certainly departments in Oxford. We are very lucky. This year we have 156 students from 60 plus countries. So, and everyone has a really interesting motivation for coming to the school. Did anyone, what I wanted to check was if anyone looked at any other schools of public policy and why specifically this school? I mean, Joe, you talked about, you did your research, you looked at the website, I assume, did your research on some of the professors and the faculty here. Were there any other schools that you thought, oh, I could possibly move there?
Yeah, I was, one of the main reasons why I decided to apply was that BSG has one of the professors that I was in contact in my background in economics. And it was really, back then I was really concerned about how democracies, especially in Brazil, after everything that happened in Brazil from 2015, 2016 to the last president. I was really concerned about democracies are facing hard times in many countries, in many democratic countries in the world. And some of the professors were actually discussing how effectiveness and how public policies being not delivered in a very good way can also be responsible for this kind of trends that we are seeing. So it was really interesting to see how professors that I read in my university during my undergrad were also teaching here, and were like that I could have access to them. So it was really, really important. I also looked at other institutions too, but the main point was just like the courses that we have in BSG were more appealing to me in terms of how they're more applied to the reality and the realities that I was facing. So it related more to my reality than other institutions.
Was that the same for any of you here, that it was connected more with what you wanted to do when you go back? It's the real focus on public policy.
I think for me, I looked at Harvard as well, and Oxford I thought would be more of an appropriate fit. I know a lot of our Australian Prime Ministers have been educated here. I'd spent a bit of time here already, so I was a little bit more familiar with it. And I think as well, just the political climate was a bit of a deterrent. I think my mum said, I can send you off to the UK, but I'm not sending you to America for a year. So I took her advice.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about families later.
Mine was probably a bit more unconventional in this sense. So I'm just out of undergrad. I worked briefly as a tutor in the University of Galway, the university where I graduated from law school. And I was trying to think about postgrads that I could do to help me make sense of the next chapter of my life, with many issues in my mind. So a legal career, political activism, based upon some of the issues that I named earlier. And I was looking at a law master's initially, actually, but I spoke to someone who had studied a law master's at Oxford, and he pointed me to the MPP and said that I think this might fit your disposition better. So I did research and found that it might. And there's a lot of things about the course that I felt could equip me to address some of those issues that I named earlier, and to make sense of, again, the next chapter of my life, and took the gamble of applying, and thankfully it worked out in the end.
Thankfully for us. Thankfully for us. That's really interesting. The application process, which is not simple, there's a lot of information that you need to gather. There's written work, so you need to write your CV, the application form. There is a reflective policy essay. Let me get this right, a short public service essay. You need transcripts, you need references. Can you perhaps all talk about how you found the application process? What kinds of things that you might have highlighted that you thought were really important for our wonderful admissions team here to look at while they were considering? You want to start, Tunde?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that the application process is a deeply reflective exercise, and it made me reflect on not just the things I had done, but why it was important for my next step, like the next step I wanted to take. You know, it's easy to get caught in work, and, you know, just going with the motions. But that made me sit back, you know, and really reflect as to what my passion was and it still is, and what the driving force is. So I like to think about the application process as though I was writing like an opening chapter into a book about my future, right? And the admissions team would be the first audience to read that. So I needed to set the tone, right? And I also needed to come up with a compelling, authentic story, you know, let them see not just what I'd done, but why it's important for my next. So I think not just because you want to get admitted, I think it's a good exercise for you as a person, because it helps you reflect. Yeah, I really like that about the application process. It wasn't a walk in the park, no. Yeah, because I had to take time to craft it, but it was worth it.
That's really interesting. We've had students who have applied in the past, weren't successful, have applied again and have got here because they realised when they were looking at their applications that actually that first time they weren't quite ready. And then the second time, you know, they've done a bit more, they feel more confident about their path in life. So it is actually, it's a lovely way of saying that it is a really nice reflective opportunity to kind of think about what your next chapter might look like. Would there be any tips that you would give somebody?
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so for me, I would say that because I'd been away from the academic environment for a while, getting an academic reference was quite a bit of a challenge, because I had lost the contacts of my lecturers and my tutors. So that was a bit challenging. So if you could start that process earlier, if you're like me, you could probably do that. Another thing I would say would be to use all the help you could possibly get. And of course, nobody can tell your story like you, because this is you reflecting. But I mean, like, things are simple things like proofreading. You know, you could just get people to help you look through. And then alumni. The alumni is a very great resource. I mean, I spoke to a lot of people in Nigeria who had gone through this course. I mean, and they highlighted the things like, don't downplay your achievements. Back home in Nigeria, we're usually told, don't blow your trumpet, you know, like, be humble. This is an exception, guys. Like, this is not the time to be modest. Like, put it out there and own your story. Those are the tips I would give.
Own your story is that's something that comes up quite a lot when we're looking at all the wonderful applications that we get. But yeah, it's about owning your story. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the application process?
I would second what Yutunde was saying, is that so much of the essay writing part feels a bit self-indulgent. And, you know, as you're writing it, you're like, oh, geez, no wonder I'm tired. Look at all of this stuff that I've done. But it is important to really indulge in that process.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it really did refine what my purpose was and what my impact could be and what it has been. And even though, you know, it's a difficult process and it's quite arduous, going through it was actually quite personally rewarding and quite motivating. And I think as well, you know, when you do engage people to become your references, speak to them about it. You know, that they're going to be, like they could mentor you through that process. You know, obviously you've approached them for a reason because you admire them or they admire you. So speak to them about what that is and speak to them about what they would suggest you do. And I think that that will give you a good indication of what you should be including in the essays.
And also just talking about references and referees is approach them early. We are actually a month today away from the application deadline, which is the 9th of January, but sort of, I think we always tend to leave things to the last minute. Do you have any thoughts on, you know, when did you put your applications in? We always try and say to people, get them in, you know, before Christmas, and then you can enjoy Christmas and not sort of think, oh gosh, I have to finish my application. Any thoughts on the timing of when you might have put your application in, and also your thoughts on the application process itself?
In terms of timing, first, I started rather early because the person who brought the MPP to my attention did so in the summertime. So I looked forward towards applying to this course because I was convinced this is the one that could help me for the next phase of my life. And so I started ASAP as soon as I got the questions to aid with the statement of purpose. As soon as information was uploaded on the BSG page about the application, I just got to work ASAP. So I'd encourage that, to try your best to, but if you can't, try and ensure the requisite things that you have to get done early, like knowing who your references are done as soon as possible. And in terms of the application, the essay, I think really, yes, it's coming from your mind, it's academic, but it comes from your heart as well. You have to really feel the essay. It has to be personal to you. And I think my theory is that the admissions team can sense that. They want people who come here who are motivated towards impacting their home countries in a positive way and addressing the issues that define them. So find the issues that define you and define the steps you want to take in the future, and pour it out in the essay. The academic structure, etc., that comes, but make sure that at the heart of your essay is something that you feel emotive about, that you genuinely want to change, and try and make sure your essay is felt before it's comprehended. You know, so this is what I'd.
It's having the passion kind of shine through. Something that you're incredibly passionate about. So, and that's it's tricky to put it on paper. So having the time to sort of take your time, and like you say, it's your story, it's personal. So really making sure you have enough time to get all that on paper so we can read it and be incredibly impressed, as we always are every year. Xiao, did you have any thoughts about the application process?
I consider myself a late applicant for the MPP. That I have to be, because probably a lot of people were also seeing us now are not necessarily ready with all the documents because it's a lot of things. But one of the things that helped me was like in the beginning of the year, I already knew that I wanted to apply, and I applied also for other institutions, and I decided to come here. I had most of the documents that you have, like the transcriptions were done already. So it requires you to be have some financial planning, because in my country it is expensive to have official translation of the documents, and also to contact university. Some of the documents I had to email them multiple times. So if those documents were not ready, it would be probably impossible for me to apply for BSG last year. So trying to organize yourself, so get ready with the things that you can do already, or as fast as you can. And you know, I would definitely agree with my friends that it was really hard for me personally to put my own intentions and my own values on the essay, because normally I was working on reports and financial reports and etc. in my city as Secretary of Finance. So I was not necessarily thinking about bringing emotions and things like that, or the values that drove my decisions as a public servant. So it was really a nice exercise to tell exactly what were the values that I was fighting for, and what the results that I had as a public servant were serving to, you know, what kind of values were underlying the number results that I had. But of course, like a more objective tip for the applicants is like being able to demonstrate in a quantifiable way how you are important to your community. It doesn't have to be a large community, as I thought in the beginning, that only people working for ministries or state governments would be accepted. You just have to make sure that you can tell your story in a way that people understand what your impact was.
Yeah, exactly that. And you mentioned funding, and I thought we could move on just to talk about scholarships. We're very lucky here at the school that we have 90% of our current cohorts have full or partial scholarships. And we're very, very clear that finance should not be a barrier to coming to this school, to coming to Oxford. So we're very lucky that we have a number of partners and foundations who offer scholarships for us, which is wonderful. And I think you're all recipients in some way of scholarships. So do you want to perhaps talk about how you went ahead finding your funding, what the scholarship means to you? And I know, for example, you turned over with AFOX, the wonderful organisation who are supporting you. Yes. They also offer a lot more to AFOX scholars. Yes. So do you want to kick off and tell us about how you got your scholarship and what it offers you?
Okay, yeah. So the AFOX scholarship is the African Oxford Initiative, which is sponsored, which is in conjunction with the MasterCard Foundation. Yeah, so, and it targets students from African countries. Once you get a space or you get a place in Oxford, you'll be considered for an interview. And basically that was what I went through. After I got a place, I was scheduled for an interview, and I had the interview, and I got the scholarship. I was also nominated for the World Bank Scholarship as well by the school. So BSG, I need to say this, like BSG would go all out to ensure that you get funding as long as you get a place. But that's not to say you should rest on your oars and not try to look for funding on your own, because, I mean, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, like they say. So, yeah, so I got 2 scholarships actually, and then I had to decide which of them to take. Of course, I chose.
I should let you take both.
No, I was saying, is it possible to merge both? And they were like, no, different. But I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I did AFOX. Yeah, AFOX, apart from funding, has an amazing community for African students. We also have leadership sessions where we are trained, you know, on leadership skills, on how to impact Africa, because it's not just about getting the education and then going back. There should be some kind of transformation back in the continent. So it's more than just a scholarship. It's more than just funding. It's a transformative journey, actually. You know, so yeah, that's the scholarship I'm on. And if you're from Africa like me, once you get a place, I'm sure you'll be considered for the AFOX scholarship.
Yes, that's great to hear. And I know that they are such a warm, inclusive organisation to all their scholars. Yeah. Eric, how did you manage to go ahead and get your funding?
Yes, I might flag that BSG indeed is very helpful when it comes to getting funding to come to the university. So when you're filling your application, you'll notice that you can apply vis-a-vis your application to particular scholarships. So you have that option there. And if you get a place, you'll automatically be considered for those. So I think it's worth noting that in my case, the scholarship I received was Irish specific. So it's the George Moore Scholarship, They are a scholarship for students who from Ireland, are seeking postgraduate study abroad. A bit like AFOX, George Moore Scholarship, it's tied towards a public end. So people who are going to study, you aren't expected to study and come back and exist in a silo with what you gain. Instead, the knowledge that you acquire through your study, it's hoped that you're going to apply that to better your community. So my principles in applying for the scholarship were tied to what I mentioned in my my application to BSG, and that greatly helped me. And I might note just 2 things from my prior conversation about the application. In terms of leadership and demonstrating leadership, I think Al said very aptly that it's easy to think that you need to have maybe had a massive on paper role in government or in the private sector before you're deemed an eligible leader. But for me, coming right out of undergrad, this was something that I saw as rather daunting because I didn't have such experience. But here, I think it's very strongly recognized that leadership can come in different forms.
Exactly that.
There's no conventional way of doing leadership. So whether it's holding an event in your local community, doing something student union, doing something small, an initiative for people to gain from in your school, beyond, that's recognized as well, I think, in your application too. So don't downplay yourself. And I relate to what Yatunde said. I am Nigerian Irish, so that cultural incentive to suppress braggadociousness.
Yeah.
I feel it too. My mom instilled that in me. So you have to just be comfortable in what you're good at.
Yeah.
Because at some point you have to reckon with this quality in your journey. So let this application be what forces you to do so, because it's going to end up good for you and hopefully for the communities you want to serve as well.
And it's worth really reiterating that leadership comes in many different forms, and you don't have to be, as you said, private secretary or have done a really important job in an NGO. It's leadership in your community. It's taking initiative. It's being motivated and wanting to help your societies, and that comes in many different forms. So it's really worth repeating that. So thank you, Eric. Joe, I think you are a layman scholar.
Yes,
I got that right, which is a wonderful organisation that we've had many years of partnership with.
Yeah, the Layman Scholarship, 6 Brazilian professionals that have been working in the public sector and also who achieved what they call academic success. So basically, they're really, really concerned about how you actually improved the reality that you worked for. And again, it doesn't have to be in a really high scale. I was working in a city of 30,000 inhabitants in Brazil. It is a very small community, but I managed to demonstrate how I actually, in the 4 years that I worked for that community, I helped them to improve in many ways. So it's really telling the story. So the scholarship was looking for exactly this kind of leadership that focuses on achievements, no matter what level necessarily it is. And I mean, during the application process, you have the opportunities of scholarships that the University of Oxford holds, and also the opportunity of scholarships that the Blavatnik School of Government holds, and the Layman Scholarship is one of those. The selection process is led by the Blavatnik School. And I think that, I mean, for many people, we have multiple other options outside the University of Oxford. You know, you have the Chevening, which is like in Brazil, one of the main scholarships for students coming to the UK. And also, I think, it's just like getting to know all the possibilities and all the, not only Chevening, not only the Layman Scholarship, but also the opportunity of scholarships that University of Oxford also has is an important idea.
And there's so much information on our website. Just go on our fees and funding page and you'll see all that information there. And we'll talk a little bit about Alumni a bit later, but they are an incredible source of advice and help when you're looking for scholarships and funding. So, Brooke, what was your experience of looking for funding to come here?
I mean, it's terrifying because you think, oh no, like, what if I get in and then I can't afford to go? And so, I completely sympathize with all of you at home who are worried about that because it is stressful. I ended up getting funding from the Aurora Foundation, who manage the Charlie Perkins Trust, and it's combined with a Chevening scholarship, so they go halves. I didn't double up.
Okay.
Okay. And so basically, like, they combine funds to send Indigenous people off to school. And shout out to any Indigenous Australian people who are on the call, because I think it would be quite late over there. So the process was almost similar to the process that I went through to apply to BSG, but there were interviews as well. I mean, they were so lovely, and I think the thing is these people are investing in your future, and your potential, and and your commitment to helping others, or at least going back and contributing in some way, shape, or form, and that's an important thing I think to keep in mind, is that it's it's this huge process, and some of that can get lost in the details of it. But they believe in you. People are doing this, and you're getting in, and you're putting in the hard yards because there are people who want you to win. And so I sort of kept trying to remind myself of that, because I think the same as Eric and Yetunde, I did have a little bit of that self-doubt while I was looking at the questions and looking at the alumni and looking at the people who'd been awarded the scholarships in the past, thinking like, oh, I don't measure up to these people. Like, I'm a journalist. These people are doing incredible things. So yeah, I mean, they're on your team, I think.
And I think, I mean, just talking about that, there is an element of imposter syndrome. We all suffer from that. I think perhaps coming to Oxford, it's a little more intimidating. But I think we've shown from the diversity of the cohorts that we have that anyone can come here. They have that drive and determination that they want to improve their communities and societies, and are really fascinated by public policy. So you've got your scholarships.
Yeah.
You're here in Oxford.
Could I just say something else about the AFOX scholarship? There's something called the Ubuntu transition, which is immediately after you're done. So there's a 4 to 6 months internship, which AFOX allows you, sponsors you, or supports you to engage in. And you can work in any of their partner organizations across Africa. That's like the way of giving back, or also learning, applying the skills and the knowledge that you learned while you were here. And you're not really limited to just their partner organizations. You could also forge your own partnerships and bring them on board. So, like I said earlier, AFOX is about Africa and, encouraging Africans to, be their best. So I just needed to add that part.
Definitely. Yeah. And actually that's we'll talk a little bit about the summer project later, because that's something similar about applying what you've learned here to a particular project. Yes. But so if I can just take you back, so you've arrived, it's day one. You've got induction, which is a 2-week process. I mean, we have a large cohort. You only have a year here, and the idea about induction, which is 2 weeks of all sorts of activities, is to try and encourage this kind of cohesion for the cohort, getting to know each other, but also trusting each other, because through the year, during the coursework, there will be occasions where there will be sort of intense discussions and issues that people have very strong feelings about. So having that trust with each other to feel that this school is a safe space where you can have those discussions and make those unlikely coalitions. So how intense are the classes? How did you find that when you first got here and suddenly you're thrown into a classroom situation again, perhaps for some of you, quite a few years after you'd first been in a classroom? So what is the coursework like, and how are you sort of coping as we come to the end of the first term?
I think I'm probably the oldest, so maybe I can
Go for it.
It's daunting. I mean, the first couple of weeks are so wonderful because you're meeting all of these incredible people, and you do form really genuine and close bonds really quickly. Like Eric and I were in a group together in the first week, and we've been mates ever since then. And so, the first 2 weeks is fun, and you're playing all these games and doing all of these trust exercises, but that's a trick. It gets hard after that.
Yeah.
It gets really hard. But, there's support for you at each step of the way. And I think if you think in some way, shape or form that, oh, I couldn't possibly go back to study after doing this work for this long, or having not engaged in academia for, an extended period of time, let me reassure you that you can. I've just been doing live TV for the last 10 years, which is almost the opposite of academia, because live TV is like bang, bang, bang. But academia, you spend a lot of time reading and sitting with things and thinking about them and discussing them with your friends. And none of it is, I think, beyond you. Like any of the skills that you may have forgotten that you had, or that you never had in the first place, there's support here to reintroduce you or introduce you to them. So whether it's essay writing or studying or even engaging in the sorts of subjects that that we're engaging in for the first time, there is support. And the way that the program is designed is it makes it achievable for you. I'm not going to say easy because it's not, but it's achievable. I mean, probably the wrong time to ask Helen, because I've just spent the whole weekend studying in my room, writing essays and doing lots of reading. So I can't believe how much I've learned in such a short space of time, and it is hard, but it's worth it.
And you talked about the support that the school offers. So everyone has their own supervisor, and obviously you all have each other, which I'm sure is helpful just in terms of sort of downloading and talking about the stress that you might be feeling. But what are there other kinds of support that you get?
Okay. I like to say that one of the greatest supports that I think that the school gives you is the school meets you where you are. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So we have economics. And so if you are new to economics, like I was, there is the mainstream and there's the experienced stream. So it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, you don't need to have had prior knowledge of any of the subjects or the courses that are going to be taken. You will be fine. I mean, like if you just put your heart to it, you'll be fine. Even same thing for applied statistics as well. You know, there was that pop quiz, and then okay, based on how well you did, we're like, okay, you guys need to take extra classes, or you guys are fine. There is support. I mean, just as long as you make yourself available and you put your heart to it, you will be fine. We also have study groups. We have study groups amongst the students. So, like, you identify people who are like experienced. There are people who had worked in certain fields and are better off. You know, they can also help you. So there's support in the student community. There's support from the school and even from your college as well.
That's really good.
Yeah, you also have that. You wanted to.
At one stage, I was offering to trade comms workshops, like presenting skills for economic skills. So you're absolutely right. Like we sort of all support each other through the process.
Yes.
Well, you're more than welcome, Brooke, to give me any tips. So I'll catch up with you after this.
It might be worth stressing as well that a big the adage that we've been given from the start is that the MPP is a team sport. And this required major rewiring for me because at undergrad level, especially in law school, like, and maybe with all academic fields, there can be a competitiveness that's present, maybe understandably so. And so when you come and study postgrad with the MPP, the first 2 weeks being social in nature, being about connecting with students, I think can shed any undue perceptions of competitiveness and allow people to build synergies. And that is supposed to last you throughout the duration of the year. So when you need assistance from a fellow student, it's easier to go and speak to them when in the first 2 weeks you had a chat to them and were able to understand them and where they come from and their background. And there's a lot of room, I think, the course gives us for innovation amongst ourselves to try and fill other people's gaps as they fill ours, and to cooperate. So we're meant to get over the line together rather than just by yourself. And in terms of leadership and government, that's a crucial skill. So implicitly, I think this is a skill you can gain merely by experiencing some of the difficulty academically from being an MPP student. So
that's lovely to hear, and it is absolutely a team sport. It is getting it, especially the first 2 weeks during induction. There is literally sport, but that's lovely to hear. Given that you all have come from very different policy areas, does the MPP give you much scope to kind of really focus on, say, this, Joe, I don't know if there's a particular policy area that you're really focused on that you want to look at for when you go back to Brazil? Do you get much scope to kind of really focus in on particular fields?
Yeah, I think that there are so many options. For instance, like in economics, my undergrad was in economics, but in economics we have optional modules that you can choose according to your interests, and also, but especially Blavatnik School is such a vivid and living place that we have so many talks and so many people come in to talk about specific topics. But I think that the most different aspect of this institution is that it allows us to reach people and think tanks and that you would probably not be able to access in other places. So it really gives you all the possibilities to get in touch with the people that you think are important for your career to improve your skills or to learn a bit more about a specific topic and etc. So I think that this is like the main. I mean, it can be in my specific area. I'm primarily concerned about efficiency and financial issues in public sector. So it is definitely the kind of thing that I can do here. But it can be in many other issues like environment and education and health. And I mean, it's really interesting.
And it's interesting you talk about the people who come to speak at the school. We have, I mean, this term has been quite hectic. We put on many events for not just exclusive events for the students, but also for the public. And we get speakers from international institutions, politicians, senior leaders in their field, experts, and it gives people a really useful and valuable opportunity to talk one-to-one with people who you might only see on the television. But we want to offer that experience to everybody, that you have a chance to think more carefully about where your future might take you, and actually learning from people who are in positions where they've made mistakes, they've made errors. How did they get where they got to? So our events here are very carefully thought out to make sure that everyone gets some kind of well-rounded opportunity to talk to different people. I'm conscious that time is moving on and we've still got lots to talk about. So one of the questions that we get often is living in Oxford, the college system, which seems a bit alien to those of us who perhaps didn't come to Oxford or Cambridge, but there is a college system here and you pick your college and you live in a college. So what was your experience of that? How did that work for you? And what is it like living in a college? Eric, do you want to go first?
Yes, no. So it was a bit of an anomaly at first because I expected to, go to the University of Oxford and for there to be a central campus that I could just navigate, but it's very decentralized. So your college, essentially, I think it represents the community that you're part of as part of this wider University of Oxford structure. You handle a lot of things through your college as well. So a lot of the things that I thought I'd have to go to BSG or Oxford for, issues minute and major in nature, you go to your college because they have an administration that deals with some of the issues that might be of concern to you. But apart from the administrative element, there's also a community that your college offers. So it's like a patriotism to be part of your college in a sense. It represents your university community. If you come here and stay on campus, on the on-campus accommodation, it's through your vis-a-vis your college as well. So yeah, at first maybe a whirlwind to wrap my head around, as you can probably tell by my attempt to even explain it.
It is hard to explain, isn't it?
I know.
It's something maybe you feel more than understand. But I think once you get here, it does make sense.
Yeah,
And the college are there to offer a lot of support as well. So yeah, it's been very useful ultimately, despite the fact that immediately maybe there was confusion. Now it's been very helpful.
I totally understand that. Brooke,
I feel like when you come into BSG, it's like almost like coming to work, even though we're not like, really professional colleagues. Everyone's sort of like cousins. But then when you go back to your college, it's like your neighborhood. It's sort of like where you live in a really casual sense. Like you might wear your Ugg boots up to the dining hall to go and have lunch or dinner. And so they sort of make sure you're fed and, that the showers work and that you're warm. But BSG sort of provides like the bigger structure around, how you engage with the learning process. I just wanted to say, Helen, on what you were saying before about the specific ways that the course helps us focus on, what we want to do with our careers. One of the biggest joys for me so far has been learning about things outside of the scope of what my career has been. So like hearing from someone like Janina Dill talk about, the rules of engaging in conflict, especially during like in this current context, or like hearing from, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Professor Sir Dieter Hein, is that his name? Yeah. On climate and sustainability. Those things are outside of the scope of my understanding, but hearing them speak, it's so engaging and so enriching and informs, I think, the way that I'll think about my work going forward.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'll pass it on to you, Nina. She recently did her lecture. It's on YouTube if you want to look at it. But yeah, I mean, issues like global security, especially at the moment, it's really, we're so lucky to have faculty who, we have Philippa Webb, who is our professor of law. We have some amazing faculty who have such insights into these different areas that are crucial for all of us moving forward, especially on climate and global security. So that's good to know. Your college is obviously, I can't actually remember which college.
St Anthony's,
St Anthony's, that's it.
which is kind of the party college at the moment.
I see.
A little bit ashamed to say.
How did you choose it? How did you go about choosing your
Well,
college?
I originally asked to go into Balliol, and then I got an offer from St Anthony's. And at first I thought, oh, I don't even know what this is. Like, how does this work? I didn't kind of know how it fit into the experience of being in Oxford. But there are so many MPPs at St Anthony's. I think there are 22 of us there. So I'm so grateful that I'm there now. It's a more of a postgrad college, so we don't have any undergrads there, which I think is more suitable for me because I am a little bit older. I've come into the experience after doing a bit. Thanks, Joe.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's nice to be around people who are, at that stage of their academic career, and it's just really fun. Every time we have an event here, it's assumed that the after party is at St Anthony's. This isn't anything to do with me, by the way. It's all of the other MPPs. But it's a very social experience, which is lovely.
Very serious here at the school. Very serious. Take ourselves seriously.
I would add that students should be deliberate about the college you want to go to. So each college has its own character. It offers accommodation, yes. If that's what you want to opt for, you can also go for private accommodation, but I'd advise college accommodation because it's at the heart of Oxford. You get to connect with other students. It's where you can have your dinner, your lunch, your breakfast. You can connect to other students. And because each college, has its own character, you might find a college that aligns with you best. So in the application to the MPP, don't do what I did, even though I'm very happy with Regent's Park College. I said that I was indifferent to the college I wanted, but I did this thinking that it would make me a more likely candidate for the MPP because I was less of a burden.
Never a burden.
Yeah, don't do this. Be deliberate about what you want from the start to the end of your application, including your college choice.
So do your research into your colleges, and they all have websites. You'll be able to see everything that they offer. So yes, doing your research, and again, that brings me on to Alumni, but I just want to double check your experiences of college life.
Yeah, my college, I also didn't decide which college I was going to because I actually didn't know exactly what the college experience was. It was a total anomaly for me to think of what it is to have a university and decentralized unities of colleges that like run your entire life in terms of housing and food and everything. But I'm in Wolfson College, which is a little far away from BSG, so it requires me to buy 10 minutes each day to BSG and 10 minutes back, which is positive. So I used to have some like spine issues and a pain in my neck, and I think like exercising more helped me a little bit in getting better. So, but the experience is excellent. I basically do everything in my college. I go to gym. I eat. I go to concerts. Like we have so many concerts. We have like movie nights and etc. And I really have good connections with people there. It's really interesting.
That's good to know.
Okay, yeah. So I was just going to say, like you have 1 month to the deadline, right? If you're not done with your main application, please do not spend your time researching colleges because there is no guarantee that the college that you pick would actually accept you, right? And I know that there are different colleges and they all have their special characteristics or traits. Every college is fine, trust me. So if you're pressed for time, please do not spend your time researching. Looking at all the colleges. You will be fine. What the college does for you is it creates or gives you another community outside of BSG. So you get to meet other Oxford students who are in other fields, and then you can all rub minds together and all of that. So wherever you are, you'll be fine. If you don't have time, please do not waste your time. I'm at Somerville. I didn't pick that, but it's just close by. And a lot of people ask me, how did you? I didn't pick it. I just somehow, so you'll be fine, really. So that's all.
Somerville.
Yeah, Somerville.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I know.
Focus on the application. I wanted to talk a bit because I'm conscious that we're running out of time. If you've asked a question, by the way, and we haven't answered it, please get in touch with our admissions team, admissions@bsg.ox.ac.uk. If you have any more questions, and look again at our YouTube because we have all our other sessions and hopefully you'll get answers there. Obviously our website as well has lots of information, our social media. You will be able to see what it's like being at BSG if you look at our Instagram and also our Twitter and LinkedIn. So lots of advice and information for you there. I really wanted to talk about alumni because when you come to the school for your 1 year, it doesn't just end there. We have an amazing alumni network who these wonderful people will join in the summer, I guess, next year, or once you've graduated next year. But they are a fantastic network for information and advice on applying. If you know anyone or you do your research on LinkedIn and you want to reach out to an alumni, they are always so happy to help and to offer advice because they had advice themselves when they were applying. So, but the network itself, you become part of this huge family across the globe. So when you're back in your countries doing amazing work, you'll be able to reach out to somebody and ask for their advice on a particular issue. There is that constant networking between our alumni, and we have events throughout the year where they all meet up. So did anyone get any advice from alumni or reach out or chat to anyone who advised you? I think you had said that you were somebody here in Oxford, I think, advised you to look at BSG.
Yes, I did get advice from alumni from 2 former MPP students. The person who turned my attention to the MPP was a BCL student, but as soon as I knew the MPP was what I wanted to do, I looked for alumni as best I could through LinkedIn, Instagram, other means. I found 2 people I got in touch with, and they gave me very good advice. And somebody who's on the cohort now, cohort now, the MPP cohort, who was supposed to be in the cohort last year, but postponed, he too helped me greatly. I don't know if I can shout him out. Mohit. Mohit gave me very profound advice and called me and gave me tips as to how best I could communicate what I was about, as we talked about earlier, what my essence was, what the issues that agitated me were in my application. And that greatly helped to steer me in the right direction, I think, when applying to the course. So I would highly advise people who are watching this to try and find alumni. Alumni typically are very happy to help out in any way that they can. Public service is kind of the theme of being at BSG. So I think the beauty of the people I've met and the cohort is that they're willing to extend that to the private domain as well as the public domain. So don't be afraid to reach out to anyone, including myself.
That's a lovely piece of advice. Thank you. Did anyone else have any help from alumni? I guess certainly with the scholarship that you're in, you have.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Eric was very precise in terms of how it can help you to go through the process of application, to have contacts with people who actually experienced BSG or who are successful in their applications, but also get in touch with people not only in this moment, which is like a crucial moment because you have to be accepted, but after you are accepted, having advices of alumni who are like experienced everything here is really, really precise. And I'm really grateful to all the alumni that we had last year from Brazil because like they saved my life in many terms. They created a small WhatsApp group and gave all the tips that we needed to get used to the Oxford experience, which is like requires a lot of preparing and a lot of email reading. And so they were pretty much responsible for the kind of success that I had in the beginning of the experience. So yes.
That's lovely to hear. And did you have the same experience?
Oh yes, I actually did. So there's the Agimo Credit Foundation, which has been responsible for certain scholarships at the school. So what they did was link Nigerians with those past MPP scholars, and they were really helpful. I mean, even in the last cohorts, I met one of them, when I came to school. They were very, very helpful, like in telling us what to highlight in our applications, how to prepare for school, how to go about getting funding. It was really helpful. So yeah, I would say to you, use all the help you can get. I mean, you're not alone. And if you reach out, I mean, that's the least we can do, just pay it forward, right? So
yeah, exactly that. So we have around 4 minutes left. There's still so much that I wanted to cover. So what I'll do is just ask you another couple of questions and we'll go around. So what has surprised you most about the MPP at the school, Eric?
What surprised me most about the MPP? We talked about imposter syndrome, the struggles of adapting to Oxford, and a lot of the questions that we were asked today. And it's very easy to feel like struggling with those questions are unique to you. But in coming here, I found that a lot of people with incredible backgrounds, not least the 3 people I'm joined with today, they too struggle with these questions in ways. And that helped me realize that the struggle is human. And so if others are reckoning with it too, I might be able, despite my position as an undergrad or whatever else I might name, to reckon with it as well. So believing in yourself is something that I was encouraged to do upon coming here, because as you said, we've got to meet very high-ranking politicians, people who work in public service, the civil service, in the private sector, and they all deal with the same questions that many of us deal with here personally and introspectively. So these questions are not unique to any person because of their strata, background. They might be intensified because of who you are, but if others can overcome them too, I've been encouraged to think that I can as well, which I didn't expect. I thought I'd be working against that current in coming to BSc, but rather I've been supported in my attempts to overcome and surmount these questions. So I hope this is helpful to people listening. Just to encourage you to believe in yourself in the application and whatever comes afterwards as well.
I think that's it's a recognition we all have the same struggles underneath. And actually, one point that I should make is we have fantastic welfare support here at the school, because it's not easy coming here, and especially as I mentioned before, if you're coming from overseas, you're away from your family. We do have some fantastic welfare support, not just at the school, across the university, but also in your colleges, which is another wonderful support from your college. But Yetunde, what has surprised you most?
I think for me, it's the level of support you get, really. I mean, I was just talking to Brooke about the returning to education class that was available, from the university for those of us who have been away from the academic environment for a while, just there's so much support, like they're doing everything to make sure that you succeed. It's not the same way back home. I mean, like you're literally on your own. You need to, wade through the waters and, just find your way. But that has really surprised me. I mean, the support is incredible from my college to school, I have a college, I'm sure everyone here has a college tutor as well, your academic supervisor. There's so much support.
Even in the cohort, our group chat, if someone's like, oh, how
I
are we
need something.
this, or what is this due, or how did you go about this? There's so much support.
Yeah, there's so much support. That was surprising for me because I mean, against the competitive thing I'm used to. Yeah, so I think that's the most surprising thing for me.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear that there are huge waves of support for everyone, and within the cohort as well, which is lovely. What's been most surprising for you?
Yeah, I totally agree with my friends that when it comes to support, it's the first time that I feel that I'm really being assisted by the institution, the learning institution, to succeed. I mean, I'm not undermining my experiences in Brazil as a student, but it's really striking of how much effort this institution puts into improving its didactics and its methodologies, so people can actually succeed in the courses that we are doing here. And when we are talking about support, I think I should just nominate some of them. We have the welfare support, we have career support, we have office hours with simulators and professors, we have welfare from college, we have extra classes preparing you to core courses that you're going to have throughout the MPP. But most surprisingly for me is that when you were in class, in a lecture, you are not supposed to be, you're not coming here to just lay back and pretend that you're studying. You're actually called to demonstrate what you're learning and to participate in class. So it's not easy. I mean, this is not going to be just sitting and pretending that you're attending a class. You're actually called all the time to participate and to engage and to demonstrate what is your point and your stance in a specific topic. And it is tiresome, but that's how you succeed in learning. So yeah.
Can I supplement that briefly by saying, when you come to BSc, you're not an object of education. You're very much a subject as well, and your voice is prioritized. Speaking of voices, the Voices blog, which BSc oversees, gives students an opportunity to write about issues that are on their mind, that impact their home country or whatever public policy question that they're interested in. So I think this is one of many examples, as Joel said, of how BSc platforms the voices of students. If you have something you want to say, you can go ahead and say it to be a leader.
Do look on Voices blog. You'll see Eric wrote a fantastic blog about the recent Irish elections. So yes, it's a fantastic platform for students to talk about public policy, whatever is going on in their home countries or an issue that they're passionate about.
I would just like to add that we also have amazing students representatives, and one of them is just like, and they're really helpful.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes, Eric is our education rep and does a great job. Brooke, what surprised you most about school?
I think that I could learn economics. No, I support everything that everyone said and second it. But I think for me, just how close the bonds would be so quickly. I mean, we've been here for one term, which is 8 weeks. I think we're in our 9th week of term, but we had a couple of weeks before as well. You form these relationships quite quickly because, we're all away from home and, away from all of the normal support systems that we have. And it is truly just so wonderful to be around people who care as much about the world and how it operates as what you do. I think that it can't be underestimated how much of an impact it has when you go somewhere and you feel like you're surrounded by like-minded people. You feel quite seen. And I wasn't expecting for that to feel like the impact of that to be quite so profound on me. I feel quite held by the community, by the cohort, but also like, oh yes, we're all in this together. Like all of the things that are happening in the world or in your specific communities, there are so many wonderful people who are so smart and so capable who are committed to improving them. And I think that the impact that that's had on me, like personally, has been quite wonderful.
I would just like to add that too, that in Bart's birthday, in one of the parties in St. Anthony's,
just throw St. Anthony's under the bus again.
So he said that just like it's weird how we actually think that we've like with this feeling that we found our people, just like I like the sense of belonging when you're in the cohort. It's really the kind of thing that I felt. Just like this is the kind of people I would like to engage and have connections, like lifelong connections.
I know, it's so sad that in a year's time we're not going to be together anymore. Like we had to book in our graduation dates the other day, and instead of being like, yes, graduation, I was like, oh no, I won't be with my friends anymore.
So quickly.
It's so wonderful.
But this is a lovely way to end, and sadly we have to end. We're over time. I wish we had more time. There's still so many questions I wanted to ask. Thank you to all of you for making the time to come and give us your perspectives and your advice and your reassurance to hopefully all the wonderful people who are at home thinking of applying or hopefully halfway through applying. Thank you to you for making the time in your busy schedules to register for this event. As I've said before, there's lots more information on our website, on the YouTube channel. All our previous Q&As are there. We wish you much luck in applying. We hope to be reading your applications. Don't leave it to the last minute. And hopefully we will see you here in this lecture theatre in September next year. So thank you very much. We'll see you next year, I hope. Bye-bye.